I'm sitting here, trying to piece together everything that's happened, and it's hard not to feel a mix of frustration and sadness. It's like being caught in a storm, and all I can do is hold on until it passes. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Claire, and I have always been the eldest sister, the one who is supposed to have it all together. Growing up, I fell into the role of being the responsible one. You know, the one who was always there to lend a hand, to listen, to take care of things when our parents couldn't. It was just the way it was, and I accepted it without much thought. Tessa, my younger sister, was always the life of the party, the entertainer who drew people in with her charm. Then there was Rachel, the youngest, who seemed to glide through life with ease, always the baby of the family. I was the one left to clean up after everyone, to make sure everything was in order. When I became a mother, things shifted a bit, but not as much as I had hoped. I adopted my daughter, Maya, when she was just 3 years old. Those early days with her are etched in my memory, especially the first time she called me Mom. I remember sitting in the car, tears streaming down my face after dropping her off at preschool. From that moment, I made a vow to her that she would always feel like she belonged to our family, and that she was wanted. But despite my best efforts, I found it difficult to keep that promise. Last spring, Tessa got engaged, and the announcement was as grand as you might imagine, complete with a giant diamond and an Instagram post that seemed to scream for attention. I congratulated her, of course. Maya, being the thoughtful soul she is, made Tessa a handmade card, complete with wedding bells and an abundance of glitter. Tessa said it was sweet, but I found it later, crumpled and forgotten in her car. Maya was excited about the wedding. She spent time looking at dresses online, asking me if she should wear her hair up or down. I could see the hope and anticipation in her eyes, and it broke my heart a little because I knew how much she wanted to be part of it all. Then the invitation arrived. It was one of those elegant, expensive invitations that make you feel like you're holding something truly special. I opened it while Maya was doing her homework at the kitchen table. As I read through the details, I noticed the words that changed everything. Adults only, 18 plus, strictly enforced, no exceptions. I read it again, hoping I had misunderstood, but I hadn't. Maya looked up, noticing the expression on my face, and asked, "She doesn't want me there, does she?" I told her it was an 18-plus event, but her next question pierced right through me. "Is it because I'm adopted?" she asked, her voice steady but with a hint of resignation. I reassured her that it wasn't the reason, but deep down, I understood what she meant. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. There were other moments, small comments that went unnoticed by others but stung nonetheless. Like the time my mom introduced Maya as Claire's girl instead of our granddaughter. Or how Tessa would refer to her as your daughter, as if she was just some kid from the neighborhood. At family gatherings, Maya would try to help in the kitchen, but no one seemed to acknowledge her efforts. I wanted to believe it was unintentional, that they didn't mean any harm, but this time, it felt different. I didn't argue or make a scene. I simply went online and declined the invitation. No explanation given. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. The next day, Tessa texted me, asking if everything was all right. She followed up with a message saying she hoped I understood that the age restriction was being applied consistently. She said it wasn't anything personal, but how could it not be personal? Maya is her niece, and she's almost an adult, not a little child. I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. Then Rachel reached out saying Tessa mentioned we weren't coming and she wanted to know what was going on. Even my mom called, which was unusual enough to make me brace myself for whatever was coming next. She asked if our decision not to attend was really about the age restriction. I could feel the weight of their questions, their assumptions, and their lack of understanding pressing down on me. When I look back on that night, I can see how everything started to unravel. It was supposed to be simple, a wedding invitation, a family gathering. But then it wasn't. I remember the phone call with my mom. I asked her why Maya wasn't invited, and she said something about an age limit. But Maya was almost 18. She was family. My mom paused, didn't have much to say, and told me not to make a big deal out of it. It was supposed to be one night, and I didn't argue. I just said we wouldn't go if Maya couldn't come, and I hung up. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. Group chat messages started pouring in, guilt tripping me, saying I was overreacting, making this all about Maya when it wasn't. My mom sent a long message about family unity and forgiveness, about sacrifices we've all made, and how hard it is to be caught in the middle. I didn't reply. Maya quietly deleted the dress photos from her phone and stopped talking about the wedding. She didn't cry, and somehow that hurt me even more. It was as if she'd already learned not to expect anything different, while I was still hoping for change. Christmas came and went, and no one apologized or even mentioned the incident. So I made a decision, silently. I didn't invite them to our Christmas, no announcements, no drama, just silence. And that's what really angered them. If you'd asked me a decade ago what I thought motherhood would be like, I'd have said birthday parties and messy hugs, not protecting my child from people who claimed to love us. When Maya came into my life at 3, she was serious, with big brown eyes and a quiet stare that seemed to memorize every word I said. She didn't warm up quickly, didn't giggle on cue, but when she reached for my hand in a grocery store, I cried. Ethan said that was the moment she chose me, and since then, I've chosen her every day. My family never knew how to handle her. At first, I thought it was just awkwardness. She didn't have my eyes or my last name yet, didn't jump into conversations like other kids. It was more than that. My mom referred to her as the little one instead of Maya. Tessa once asked if I would tell her she's adopted when she was standing right there. Rachel's kids got personalized Easter baskets. Maya got a generic one. It wasn't overt, but Maya noticed. She always noticed. I tried to be patient, explained, redirected, gave them the benefit of the doubt. When Maya was 6, she told my dad she wanted to be an artist, and he said she'd need something more practical. At 8, she drew a picture of our family and gave it to my mom, who thanked her but never put it on the fridge like the other kids' drawings. Maya asked why, and I didn't know what to say. The first time I truly lost patience was at Rachel's engagement party. Maya was 12. We were added to a mass text, no personal touch. But we went because I thought showing up would change things. Maya wore a pale blue dress and silver flats, nervous and wanting to stay close to me. Rachel greeted us with a tight smile, then moved on without acknowledging Maya. We stayed 20, maybe 25 minutes. On the way home, Maya said she didn't think Rachel liked her, and I told her, Rachel just didn't know her. He said she's had 10 years, and I didn't have an answer for that. I was there, sitting on my couch trying to process what he meant. It felt like a punch I never saw coming. A reminder that Maya's place in our family wasn't fully accepted. Deep down, I think a part of them always believed Maya was just a temporary chapter in my life, something they'd eventually look back on as a phase, a time when I fostered that little girl. They never outright said it, but their silence spoke volumes. Last year, for Maya's 16th birthday, we decided to celebrate at the community center. It was her idea, her vision. She didn't want a loud party, she wanted something meaningful. We hung her paintings, served cupcakes, and invited those who truly supported her. She made the invitations herself. I was so proud of her. She sent them to family, friends, a few teachers. But Rachel and Tessa didn't come. My parents arrived 30 minutes late, carrying a card for a sweet girl with a $20 bill inside. Maya thanked them, always the polite one, and helped clean up without a word. Later that night, I found one of her sketches. It was of us at the party, me, Maya, and Ethan, but our faces were empty. I think that was the moment I realized things would never change. It wasn't the late arrival or the indifferent card. It was Maya's reaction. She wasn't hurt anymore. She expected nothing, and that scared me more than I could admit. When the wedding invitation didn't arrive, it felt like another silent confirmation of our exclusion. No phone call, no explanation, just nothing. I knew what I had to do. I told Maya we wouldn't be going. She didn't cry, didn't argue, just nodded and said, Okay. That night, she quietly asked me if I thought they even noticed we weren't there. I told her they did because I needed her to feel like she mattered, even if their actions said otherwise. As their wedding weekend unfolded, we stayed home. Ethan made French toast, Maya painted in the sunroom, and I actually finished a book. It wasn't a protest or rebellion, it was peace. A strange, unfamiliar peace. The kind of peace that makes you realize how much noise you've been living with. I didn't miss the wedding. I didn't wonder about the ceremony, the flowers, the cake. I thought about Maya and how she spent years searching for their approval only to be taught to expect nothing in return. It was a slow, painful lesson, full. With the next holiday approaching, I began to see things differently. For years, I hosted Christmas out of obligation, pretending their presence was enough. But this year, something shifted. Early December, Ethan asked about the folding chairs. I shook my head. No extra seats this time. He didn't ask why, and neither did Maya. The family group chat buzzed with the usual questions about desserts and arrival times. I let the messages pile up, unopened. I didn't announce my decision, I simply stayed silent, and that silence spoke louder than any words. By mid-December, the messages took a different tone. Rachel asked if we were still hosting Christmas Eve dinner. Tessa mentioned bringing dessert for 5 and questioned whether Maya would be there, like she was the problem. That one cut deep. It was like they still saw her as an outsider, the issue, instead of acknowledging the hurt they'd caused. For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't engage. I didn't run around the house, tidying every nook and cranny. I didn't plan a fancy meal or bring out the extra chairs. I ignored the calls from family. My mom was the first to ring and I let it go to voicemail. Then it was Rachel, then Tessa, and finally my dad, who left a message saying they just wanted to know what was going on. He mentioned how my mom was upset and suggested it wasn't too late to do the right thing. The right thing? As if inviting people into my home who couldn't accept my daughter was the honorable choice. Feeding them wouldn't magically fix their refusal to acknowledge the truth. That year, we skipped hosting altogether. Instead, Ethan and I spent the day in our pajamas, making lasagna while Maya baked cookies that barely held their shape. We stayed inside, watched movies, and opened presents ahead of schedule. We laughed more than we had in ages, and for once, the holiday felt like it truly belonged to us. There was no tension, no need to decode veiled comments, and no awkward silence when Maya entered the room. It was just us, and it felt liberating. That's when the messages started to change. On December 26th, Tessa wrote in the group chat, expressing how sad she thought it was. She claimed they had all tried to welcome Maya, but that I made it impossible. Rachel added that cutting off family over disagreements would leave me with no one. My dad said my approach was cruel. My mom sent a photo of their Christmas tree with a caption saying it wasn't the same without us, and that Maya would have loved her gifts. I didn't respond because those weren't presents for Maya. They were attempts to lure us back into pretending everything was fine, and I was done with that charade. A few days later, we received a card in the mail with no return address, but I recognized the handwriting. It was my mother's. Inside, she wrote about the example I was setting, suggesting Maya would learn to shut people out. That line lingered with me because it was exactly what I wanted her to understand. Not that love is disposable, but that genuine love doesn't require you to diminish yourself. It doesn't demand you to stay silent while others ignore your pain. Maya never asked about the messages, but I knew she sensed the tension. She's always been observant, absorbing the world around her, trying to determine what's safe. One evening, she was curled up on the couch, blanket over her legs, sketching. She paused and asked if they would like her more if she wasn't adopted. Her question was more piercing than any text I received. I sat beside her, explaining that they might pretend better, but their treatment of those different from them was never about her. With those serious eyes, she looked at me and said she didn't think she wanted them to like her anymore. That was the moment I stopped waiting for an apology. A few days later, my father called again. I let it ring, and then he texted about my mother not sleeping, feeling like she lost me. He acknowledged their mistakes, but insisted it didn't justify shutting everyone out, claiming that's not who I am. I stared at those words for a long time, wondering if I was truly being too cold or harsh. But now I realize this is who I am, someone who knows what is acceptable and what isn't. Someone who understands that keeping peace at the cost of my child's dignity isn't noble. It's cowardice disguised as tradition. The final straw was a voice memo from Tessa, one of those lengthy ones where people try to remain composed, but each sentence carries an underlying jab. She lamented how it was sad, suggesting I was using Maya as a shield and that cutting people out for not treating her like royalty was unhealthy. I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was sitting there, trying to process everything that had happened. Loving Maya has never been a choice for me. It was just something that happened naturally, like breathing. But the world around me, or at least the people who were supposed to be my family, didn't see it that way. They called it obsession, like it was something dirty or shameful. I heard those words echo in my head, and I couldn't stand it. I deleted the message and blocked her number. I didn't need that kind of negativity, not when it came to Maya. If loving her fiercely and completely is obsession, then yes, I'm guilty as charged. I'm unapologetically obsessed with protecting her, with being the person she can rely on. Nothing anyone says will make me regret that. New Year's Eve passed by quietly, almost unnoticed. Maya fell asleep on the couch before midnight, a half-eaten cookie next to her. Ethan and I toasted with tea, not champagne. We watched the fireworks in silence. He turned to me at one point and asked if I missed them. I thought about it and realized that I didn't miss them. I missed what I thought they were, but that version of them never truly existed. Ethan understood. He just held my hand. I have no idea what the future holds. I'm sure they'll keep trying to reach out. People like them never give up quietly. More texts, more posts. Maybe they'll even show up at Maya's graduation, pretending like nothing ever happened. But I've made my decision. There won't be a big showdown or a dramatic confrontation. Just quiet distance, and sometimes that's the most powerful choice of all. It was a Thursday, cold and overcast. I had just gotten home from work, still wearing my coat, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Ethan was working late, and Maya was upstairs, focused on her college applications. I opened the door, and there they were, my parents, standing on my porch like it was years ago, and everything was normal. My mom held a Tupperware container, probably oatmeal cookies, the kind she used to make. They were soft in the middle, slightly burnt around the edges. "Claire," she said with a small smile, "we thought we'd stop by." I just stared at the container, not saying a word. My dad shifted beside her, asking if they could come in just for a minute. "No," I said, and there was a pause. Maybe they were surprised, but not enough to make a difference. My mom tried to recover, saying they just wanted to talk, that things got heated, but they were still my family. She offered the cookies as if they were a peace offering. I didn't take them. Her smile started to fade. "You don't have to be like this," she said, her voice tightening. My dad added something about pushing everyone away. They said they tried to be patient, gave me space, but now I was going to lose my real family over a girl who'd leave in a few months. My stomach clenched. My mom said softly, "She's 17. She'll go off to college soon. And then what? You'll be alone. You'll regret this." I could hear the underlying message. This wasn't about reconciling. It was about control. And then my mother said it, the thing she probably always believed deep down. "I'm sorry, Claire, but she's not blood. She's not really one of us." She said it gently, like she was doing me a favor, expecting me to agree and admit I was wrong. Instead, I took a deep breath, stepped back, and told them to leave. My dad looked shocked, trying to reason with me, but I was firm. They didn't get to come here with cookies and pity and pretend it was kindness. They didn't get to insult my daughter and expect me to invite them in. My mom insisted, saying I'd regret it when Maya left and forgot about me, that their door would still be open. I didn't respond. I just closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it until their footsteps faded away. The next day, I told Maya. I wasn't going to at first. I didn't want her to carry their poison. But I've never lied to her, not about anything important. She sat still, listening as I told her what they said about her leaving, about not being blood, about me crawling back one day. She didn't cry, but I could see the tension in her hands, how tightly she held them together. I remember the moment so clearly, sitting there with my hands clenched tight in my lap. My shoulders were tense, bracing for a storm I could feel brewing. I told her, "They hope you'll leave me," meaning my family. She just nodded, processing the weight of it. "They don't get to hope things about me," she said, and I thought that was it. I thought it would be the end of the meddling and the judgment. But a week later, my cousin Sarah forwarded me an email from Rachel, and it was like being hit with a wave of cold water. Rachel had sent this long, convoluted message to the entire extended family. It was classic Rachel, passive-aggressive, dripping with insinuation. She accused me of abandoning them all, claimed that Maya had wormed her way into my life, pulling me away from everyone else. Rachel painted Maya as difficult and distant, implying that our relationship was toxic, that I was obsessed with shielding her from imaginary offenses. It was a vile attack, and the worst part was, it had the intended effect. People started to reach out, but not in the way you might hope. Aunt Linda texted asking if everything was all right. Uncle John contacted Ethan, wondering if I was having some kind of breakdown. Then there was Chloe, my second cousin, leaving a pointed comment under one of Maya's art posts. "You're very lucky. Don't forget who gave you a home." Maya saw it, and I saw the hurt flash across her face. That was when I knew I couldn't just sit back and let this narrative take over. I didn't respond to Chloe or anyone else directly. Instead, I went to work, gathering everything, screenshots, old messages, photos, every ignored invitation, every moment of being shut out. I compiled it all like a case file, devoid of emotional outbursts or bitterness. Just cold, hard facts. Then I wrote a letter. It wasn't angry or melodramatic. It was simply the truth. I sent it to our extended family with the subject line, for those who wanted the full story. I didn't ask them to choose sides or beg for apologies. I just wanted them to know what really happened. Some of them replied, others didn't. A few quietly unfriended Rachel, while some flat out refused to believe anything I said. But that wasn't the point. I wasn't doing this for them. I did it for Maya. So she would never doubt what happened, so she would never have to question if they'd like her more if she was related by blood. After that, I blocked anyone who tried to argue, anyone who suggested I just talk it through, anyone who thought maintaining peace was more important than protecting a child from emotional neglect disguised as family values. We never heard from them directly again. I'm sure they still talk about us, probably still use me as a cautionary tale when discussing difficult children. I'm certain Maya's name comes up in clipped, judgmental tones. But I don't care. They forfeited their right to know her. Life moved on. Maya's in college now, thriving in an art program, top of her class. She still calls me every night, not because she has to, but because she wants to. She shares her sketches with me, sometimes asking for feedback, other times just wanting to say goodnight. When I dropped her off at her dorm, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "I'm not going anywhere." It was a promise, and I understood its depth. People like to say you can't choose your family, but I did. I chose her over blood, over guilt, over decades of silence that had been passed down like a family heirloom. And if anyone's waiting for me to come back with my tail between my legs, they can keep waiting. Every so often, I think about that day on the porch, My mom handing me a box of cookies like it could make up for years of unspoken issues, as if sugary treats could mend what words never did. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if I overreacted, if I should have been more patient, kept quieter, shown more grace. But then I remember Maya's face the day I told her, "They don't get to treat you like that." I remember the way she clung to me when we said goodbye at college. And most importantly, I remember the promise I made to her, one that no one ever made to me as a child. I would choose her every single time. Do you think I did the right thing? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.